Hey guys, welcome back to the Do Work, Love Strong podcast. Today we have John V-Neun, Diamond C's Chief Innovation Officer or Chief Problem Solver, whichever one you want to call him.
Chief Therapy Officer.
That's right. We all need it. You can't hate on that. We all need therapy from time to time. So we brought John on today. You know, if you watched the last one, we talked with Jeffrey about the origins of R&D or research and development at Diamond C. And he hit a little bit on Innovation Engine. And so we thought it only appropriate that this episode we roll right into Innovation Engine, which John is directly responsible for building here at Diamond C. So just kind of to help, break down, innovation at Diamond C and kind of where John's perspective is on things. And so with no further ado, just give us a little bit of, a little background for the listeners, viewers, kind of where you come from, what your purpose is at Diamond C.
Sure. So as Jacob said, I'm the Chief Innovation Officer. I'm in charge of all of our engineering and R&D groups. So all of our new product developments, ongoing improvements to current products. Also in charge of our IT group. And the third part of my job is I'm responsible for organizational innovation for all of Diamond C. And the big focus there is to make sure that even as the company grows, it's like we maintain the creative entrepreneurial spirit that has gotten this company where it is. So I'm humbled to have been brought in to help steward the creative culture of this company that's kind of made a name for itself through innovation.
Cool. What's some of your background? Like by trade, you are?
I'm a mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
Proudly. Yeah.
Robot nerd?
Robot nerd. Yeah. Proudly nerd, unapologetically nerdy. Jacob tries to nerd shame me all the time and I just won't let him get away with it because I'm a huge nerd. So I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm from upstate New York. My big passion for years, which has been my hobby and for various points of my career, has been educational robotics, where students work with mentors to build robots to play head-to-head sports against each other. And so I've done a lot of robotic system design, products for that kind of thing, mechanical mechanisms, motors, pneumatics, the whole fun shebang.
That's awesome. When the conversation first came up of a robotics engineer coming to work at Diamond C, we were like, it's trailers, which is a phrase that I hate because for so long I've always heard it's just a trailer. And we always were offended, but now I'm like, oh, how can we leverage a robotics nerd in trailers? So even going back further than that, that's your background, but innovation, how did you find innovation as far as, coming up as a kid? Like when did you really take to engineering and innovation and feel like it was going to be your path forward?
So innovation to me, it's, creative problem solving, which you touched on. And I've always been kind of that engineer nerd that kind of enjoys tinkering, enjoys solving problems through ingenuity. Coming up with a creative solution to a really complex problem is about as fun as it gets for me. I remember when I was a little kid, we built a submarine out of one of those big driveway tar buckets. And the first version was just like literally a bucket and we were holding underwater and breathing in the air pocket. And the second version was, you put a rock on top of it to help you stay down. And then eventually we were clipping the rock to the handle. And then eventually there's a window and then there's a hose going to the surface. And it's that kind of like slow improvement of iteration that leads to these kind of creative, fun solutions. And so like even as a kid to be doing projects like that, can't get enough of it.
That's from the first time I heard that story. I'm like, did he have enough oxygen or did he make it out with enough oxygen? I'm still kind of confused.
That's why I am who I am today.
That's right.
One way or the other.
One way. Yeah, for good or bad. That's it. So the culture of innovation at Diamond C, I think you kind of had that same moment when you first heard of the opportunity at Diamond C, but how did it differ from what you expected?
So it didn't differ from what I expected because I'd kind of heard some of the stories of the company. But I get that all the time. It's like, oh, John, you're Chief Innovation Officer for a trailer company. Huh. And it's like you can see it in their face. But the first time I heard the story of the engineered beam, where through creative product engineering, through innovation, this company was able to take a market by storm and dominate an industry. It became just apparent to me like how important innovation was to you and your brother and all of Diamond C, how it's core to our cultural DNA. And it makes total sense to me. Like you can find innovation and focus on creative product design anywhere, even in the trailer industry, especially in the trailer industry. There's so much opportunity to leverage innovation to drive growth, to drive better products. And the fact that Diamond C's done it time and time again and wants to continue to do it more and faster as we get bigger is, I think, what makes our organization special, and definitely the reason why I was drawn to that culture and why I'm here.
Yeah. And it's not just in products itself. I mean, it's in the whole production process from one end to the other, of just driving innovation on the line and in the way that we build trailers more efficiently. I mean, like you said, it can be found all across the spectrum, or all across the industry. So if, hinging on that term innovation engine, kind of talk to us a little bit about that. What is your perspective on innovation engine?
So, if I think about like what is innovation, that's kind of it's like, what's an innovation? Well, okay, let's talk about what is innovation. And everybody talks about innovations are it's new and improved, it's creative, it's disruptive. And I honestly, before I came here, I used to openly tell people like, I kind of hate the word innovation because people misuse it so much. They want to talk about every creative little thing as an innovation. It's like, oh, it's this innovative new blue phone case. It's like, okay, that's not innovation. It's a little creativity. And to me, innovation really requires impact. It's gotta have some larger impact that changes the industry, that causes massive growth or drives a much better value trade-off than anything else out there. And the innovation engine to me is what's going to help us maximize our impact. Because we already innovate. Diamond C has tons of innovation throughout the entire company. We're always coming out with new functions, new products, new features. We're coming out with improvements to things we do. But it's like, how do we get better at measuring the impact of those things, maximizing the impact by prioritizing, by getting faster, getting more effective. If all design is iterative, how do we speed up that iteration cycle? How do we try new things faster? How do we get quicker at what we do? How do we get more rigorous in our process? It's, the innovation engine is a series of systems and processes and tools that will make it easier to do the things we already do.
So if you had to just put a top few things to concentrate on, or the most important things, aspects of innovation engine, what would you say those are? Or to have in order, getting the house in order?
There's kind of, the innovation engine has four main phases. The probably most important one is the funnel of ideas. It's like, how do we make sure we're capturing all the potential opportunities we have to improve Diamond C, all the potential new product ideas that are out there. And a big source of that is just the people within our company. If you walked around Diamond C, there are so many incredibly passionate people here that are all problem solvers, and they all want to help grow the company, make the company better. It's like, how do we harness that potential? There's so many people that have ideas that maybe we haven't been able to get to because we've had to prioritize other things. But it's like, we need to capture all those and try to understand in that huge list of ideas, like, what are those big ones that could help the company grow? And that's not just, collecting suggestions from people, but it's also getting ideas from everywhere, finding opportunities, better collaborating with our dealers and our customers to get their feedback, better analyzing the data we have from a quality warranty perspective, market data, to drive our product improvements, to identify those opportunities for growth. And after that, once we kind of get a better handle on like all the things, like, we need to get better at prioritizing. It's like, how do we sort and filter all these different ideas to understand like what's possible? And at the same time, leaving room not just for evolutions, but also revolutions. It's like Jake and I have talked quite a bit about like we need to be improving small things to make day-to-day life better, but we also need people dedicated whose job is to look for those big changes, those big opportunities that you're not going to find just by doing little improvements along the way. It's like, there's hundreds of opportunities at Diamond C to, rearrange this and move this jig here and change this a little bit. It's like we need people that are looking at it holistically, saying like, hey, if we swipe the table clean and redesign in this way, we can be 400% better. And the engineered beam is a great example of like one of those major leaps forward that you're not gonna evolve your way into it. You have to make a leap for it.
That's right. You get to the point where, you just have to figure out how to recognize it. How can you systematically recognize those opportunities, but to not hold back from doing the small changes, because it's all important. If you looked back, or not looked back, but we're going to offer a piece of advice to a much smaller Diamond C after having been here, how long now? It's
about 5-6 months.
6 months, yeah. A much smaller Diamond C through it all, or a company like it, just handful of drafters and not a lot of resources and things. But what would you say? For a company wanting to really to grow and push the boundaries.
Advice for a smaller Diamond C. I would probably say, take the time to be experimenting, and set aside some large amount of time for the crazy ideas. It's like find that balance, like to our point we were just talking about. It's like how do we build bigger? I guess maybe that's the best idea. Knowing that Diamond C has had such incredible growth, it's like my advice to a smaller Diamond C, and you go back in time and it's like, hey, we're going to be huge one day. You should start planning for it now. Like now is the time to start documenting this stuff. Like It can't live only in Jacob's head. Like it needs to be on paper somewhere.
Yeah. I wish we could teleport that. That would have been great to know, right? You go back, Mike Crab, document, because your grandkids are going to need it, that kind of thing. So that's definitely interesting. Yeah, you always have that, hindsight being 2020 thing, just what you could go back and say. If you're talking about solving problems, what is John's process for problem solving?
My process for problem solving, trial and error and a lot of failures along the way, but meeting failures with enthusiasm, opportunities to learn and just keep going forward, right? Yeah. But I think the most important step in any problem solving process is defining the problem. Trying to understand like what is that root cause issue you're trying to find, and then making sure you take time for discovery, which could involve outside research, could involve data collection, could involve prototyping. It's like how can we gain stronger understanding of what problem we're trying to solve, so that we can maybe find that like clever solution that hits that sweet spot where like, any solution has trade-offs associated with it, but like, how do you find that one that just feels beautiful, that perfect optimized solution? And usually to find that like that solution that just kind of falls right into place, you need to understand the problem at a deeper level, which usually requires some kind of experimentation and some kind of failure along the way. And then from there, it's just like get something built as fast as you can so that you can test it, so you can learn from it. It's like, how fast can you get that first revision out there where it's actually usable, where you can actually learn something meaningful from it, and then iterate from there, just continuously improve and continue to iterate on it.
How often do you feel like individuals actually get to root cause before they start throwing darts?
Probably very rarely, but I don't know if I think sometimes that throwing darts is what helps you understand the root cause. It's like you learn more about a problem just by trying something. And that's where it's like, it's probably more important to, try to define it. Be open to discovery, be open to redefining the problem you're solving, like as you're working through it. Because you may realize like, oh, I'm actually treating a symptom, but I need to pivot and attack this, and that's going to solve it in a much broader, more effective way. The key thing for me is like, so Buckminster Fuller has this quote that I love, which is like, if I'm solving a problem, I never think about beauty. But if when I see the solution, it's not beautiful, I know it's wrong. And I believe very strongly in that quote because I think a lot of problem solvers, a lot of engineers experience that all the time where it's like they're looking at a solution and they can just either tell like, oh, this is the sweet spot one that like hit all those trade-offs just right, or they know it's not quite right and they just want to keep experimenting. And sometimes that experimentation means like, yeah, it's not right. We need to sweep the table clean and start over. Like there's some other path here that we missed. Like we're treating a symptom. I don't know if you've felt that in some of your developments.
Yeah. I guess what partly I'm angling toward a little bit is, do you have a tactical, almost piece of advice or solution for root cause? Like, how do you feel like the best way for you to get to? I guess I know there's some iteration and stuff you were talking about that can happen and gets you, keeps the ball moving down the field. But as far as getting to what you as close to root cause as what you can. In discovery.
Yeah. A lot of people use 5Y as a good exercise for that kind of thing. That certainly helps. I think it's about, so for a lot of things, the root cause is because you don't understand the user. I think for a lot of problems, it's about human-centered design. Think about who's actually going to be using this product. Where is this, what is this solution solving, especially for product design? And try to go back to that. Because if you think about it from a user perspective, sometimes that gets you closer to, well, okay, if I think about how they're using it, not necessarily how it's supposed to be used, that might shift me closer to root cause. Yeah. That's a technique that I use all the time. And I guess that's tactical to your point, right?
Yeah. Or just
you're looking for like usable, actionable advice here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Human-centered design. Focus on that.
There you go. Yeah, because whether it's so often they go directly to the external customer. You're talking about that, but it can be internal as well when you're helping engineer and design solutions for production or for interdepartmental usage. Either way, so that's good stuff though.
Well, that's interesting because like sometimes those are in conflict. It's like you need it to be one way to keep the sales guys happy. You need it to be a different way to keep the production guys happy. It's like, okay, now you've hit the root of the problem. Like now we understand the trade-off that we're trying to solve. Like how do we find a solution that balances both of those needs? And so to your point, like understanding that need from both of these different potentially conflicting perspectives will then help you balance any potential solution with how it meets the needs of each of those areas.
Yeah. So when you're you need both of those customer perspectives. Because if you move too soon on one, you could be potentially shortchanging the other. Robbing Peter to pay Paul, the old adage, could be the case.
And the best way to make sure you're balancing those perspectives, get those people involved in the problem solving team.
Yeah.
Make sure you have representatives from each of these different customers, bringing their voice into the problem solving.
Don't get siloed into thinking that only you or a couple of people have the answers. Bring the people that do the work into the solution. Yeah.
Always.
So what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you see at Diamond C for you specifically?
Biggest challenges for me specifically? I think it's trying to a couple of different things. Like one, like we have so many exciting opportunities in front of us. I think it's hard to choose where to put our focus. Someone once told me, and it was great advice when I first became an executive, like, hey, you're going to get to see like the 100 things that you could do, the 50 that you think you should do, the 25 that you actually must do, and then you get to pick 5. And that's brutal.
Yeah.
I said that to Jeffrey once, and he just said like, well, you pick 10.
If the rule of thumb is 5, we go 10.
So I think that's a struggle because there's lots of, we have such exciting growth and so many opportunities in so many different areas. It's like, sky's the limit. I think the other thing is trying to maintain a focus on scalability while maintaining the culture. It's like, how do you make innovation systemic where it's not reliant on a few key people, it's DNA level. And I think we've done a great job of that, or the company's done a great job of that. I've only been here a limited time, but it is endemic to the culture. But it's like, how do you maintain that if we're talking about 10x bigger? You know, it's like, how do you make sure some of these practices that have allowed some key people to have some very big impact to continue? You know, it's like, how do we make sure that we stay close to the customer, close to our heritage? How do we encourage the kind of entrepreneurial, nimble, agile, creative pivots as a massive company that that made this company so great when it was just, you know, Mike in a barn? You know, it's like, how do we keep that spirit alive? And I think we talk about that all the time, and I think we have a lot of things in place that are going to help protect that, because that's probably one of the most important parts of this culture, and that's why I think it's so great that we're focusing on it.
Yeah, that's what you hear so often when those things begin to become watered down, or you lose sight of them. You know, it just starts not being as fun, and so that's why we definitely, you mentioned some things we have in place. You know, the fundamentals. I mean, you know, it's our filter. I guess as we continue to grow and innovate, we just make sure that number one, you know, that customer experience, that it's whatever it is we're working on, is fueling the growth and success of our team members, which is the culture here, customers, user experience, and community abroad. You know, they feel that Love Strong kind of give back spirit from Diamond C. So switching to, as we get closer to wrapping up here, just a couple of more fun questions. What is a piece of advice that you would go back and give your 25-year-old self? Probably should say 20-year-old self.
Those are maybe very different answers. 20.
I know.
Never sell a motorcycle. just find a way to keep them all.
Yeah.
Like, make it work. You're gonna miss them. Even if you think there's no way I should keep this bike, like, just keep the bike.
Just keep it.
Just keep it. Find, like,
which one you said all of them, but
yeah, no, I miss all of them.
Yeah.
Every one I've ever bought, I wish I still had.
Yeah.
The one in particular right now, there's
one on your mind.
There was a sport bike that,
yeah,
I missed that one.
So what's the fastest you've been on a motorcycle?
Is this admissible?
Well, I don't think they can arrest you after the fact.
205 miles per hour on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
It was fast, and the bike was fine. The bike was fine with it.
Yeah. Next fun question. The superhero question that you had asked us. Superhero, which one, why, and not and it can't be flying. It can't be flying. That's
just which super, like, any.
Yeah, you tell me.
So the question I asked these guys was, like, which of Superman's powers would you pick if you could pick just one? And it's like, and I forget that I'm the token nerd among these guys, because they're all looking at me like, well, what are Superman's powers? And it's like, so, you know, it's a tougher question, because, like, flight's the obvious one.
Yeah.
But, like, flight without super speed, it's like, okay, am I just, like, flying at the speed I walk? Like, that doesn't seem, I mean, it'd be fun, but, like, it seems a little rough. And if you pick flight without, like, invulnerability, it's like, okay, like, you get hit by a bird, like, that's gonna hurt like crazy. It's like, okay, super strength is cool, but, like, again, super strength without invulnerability, like, if I drop a thing on my foot, am I, like, just, like, that could be a problem. It's like, so, and speed without invulnerability, same thing. Like, I'm really fast, but I get hit by a fly, like, that hurts like crazy. You know, nobody picks heat vision or cold breath. Like, who would pick cold breath, right? Now, if I had to pick one Superman power, it'd probably be flight. Even if I'm, like, flying at my, like, you know, slow jogging pace, like, I'd still dig it.
Yeah, because you can still avoid everything on the ground. I mean, if you're not going too fast, you can maybe avoid what's in the sky too. Yeah. Cool. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. The thought process is we will round back up in some amount of time and refresh with John, kind of see how things change, perspectives shift as the company continues to grow and evolve, and we take on new feats, as we do, and the history of the company has. And so I appreciate you spending a little time with us and kind of shedding some light. Hopefully, some of our listeners, viewers can pick apart some good stuff to apply in their journeys. So,
love it. Happy to be here. Excited to chat about innovation with you anytime, Jacob.
All right.